Welcome to another edition of MOJO Rising and How to Make Cancer Suck Less with Julie Stevens and Oscar Sierra. We're so excited to spend some time with you today. And this is one of the foundational things that I learned during my cancer journey that really helped me to proactively build a strategy, both to heal and to mitigate risk. And so I'm joined today by Oscar Sierra. So Oscar, can you share a little bit about some of the toolboxes that you traditionally use when you are working with a patient?
Yeah, so I'd say the ETMS, the Eclectic Triphasic Medical System, kind of taught me these toolboxes, courtesy of Donnie Yance and Jason and Dwight McKee, the oncologist that I learned from back in 2011 and still to this day. In every scenario, everyone should employ something, one or many things out of each one of these toolboxes. So this is kind of a way to mentally organize, make sure that someone, it doesn't have to be me, it doesn't have to be your oncologist. In fact, your oncologist, it might not be the best person to talk to you about lifestyle or diet intervention or, acupuncture or massage therapy. But, as you talked about, forming a team, this is why you form a team, because there's not going to be any one person that is expert in all of these things. But all of these things are absolutely necessary to turn a cancer scenario around, especially in advanced cancer. Pharmaceuticals are simply just not enough. And even within the realm of pharmaceuticals is one of the toolboxes. Even oncologists know that monotherapy just rarely works. It's almost never works. So one drug, you almost never see one drug being employed as a chemo agent. So it's always, adriamycin plus Cytoxan plus Taxol. Rarely is it one hit wonder. So they work better in unison within each category, and they work even best when you take the different categories and put them all together. So that can turn the tide, that can steer a large ship that's been going in one direction for a very long time in a different direction, using the more powerful collaboration and synergy of all of these toolboxes put together. So they are all important. And the number one would be lifestyle. So just briefly, that's, are you going for a walk every day? Are you in somewhere where you enjoy what you do every day, a job, a vocation, volunteering? The environment is part of that as well. So no amount of my herbs or their chemotherapy is going to unplug your automatic poison dispensers from your bedroom or your office, or get your Wi-Fi router from underneath your bed and your Bluetooth emitting cell phone from underneath your pillow every night. So someone has to pay attention to these things, and someone might be helpful to come over with an EMF meter and measure these things, or to ask you about your environmental exposures and see what you can mitigate and or limit or completely eliminate from your life that is not bringing you joy, happiness, health, and some positive effect on your blood work and your urine results and all these things. So lifestyle is a big part of this. Obviously, eating.
Yeah, I was just real quick. So lifestyle could even be, as we've discussed before, using different lotions or chapsticks or icing tools.
Yeah.
And so that's part of this thing of think about the entire experience and how you actually live your life and how you can set yourself up so that you don't have your hand cracking and your heel cracking and things like that. So
absolutely.
I interrupted you before you went on to diet and eating habits.
No, that's a good point, that some of these things fit into lifestyle. I went over and saw your garage and that entire rack of sunglasses that is a lifestyle thing to me. I guess you walk out before going into your car and heading out into the world, that you pick from 50 different fun / ridiculous / professional and serious sunglasses. And kind of depending on your mood or what you're going to go do, you have ones that are like lemons, or you have all kinds of party ridiculous sunglasses. And, that's a lifestyle thing. I assume it brings you joy. It definitely brought me joy looking at the 50 different sunglasses that you have. But, everyone can cultivate something that brings them joy into their daily routine or lifestyle, right? Like for you and I think it's music. So, like my sunglasses choice is like, what am I going to put on my car on my way to work? And yeah, is it worthwhile to invest some money into a really rocking car stereo on my 94 Mazda Miata? Yeah, I think so. I think that's worth a lot for me and my personal delights and lifestyle.
For sure.
That brings me joy. Yeah. So diet, and I really asked you guys to put eating habits on there, because diet is not the same thing as eating habits. You could have an immaculately clean, organic, locally harvested, blessed by the Pope and the rabbi, and no animals were harmed in the making of this, and children, fair labor, blah, blah, blah. And you're eating it on the way to work while driving on a conference call. And that is not going to help your body digest and assimilate these amazing nutrients that were organically grown into your body. So one thing is how you're eating it. Another thing is what you eat, and what you eat should change according to your condition, the environment, and your constitution. But how you eat it shouldn't really change. You should always be sitting down and take a big, long, deep breath, maybe say grace, and take some time away from your desk, away from your computer, your cell phone, work, go outside, put a mask on, hide. If you think your boss is going to, whatever the hell you got to do, man, you've got to sit some time aside, sit down, put your feet on the floor, stare blindly into space for a bit, and then really enjoy a meal with some company, some music, but not the news, not the really intense conversation. Like, do the intense conversations and the news and the computer and the phone at some other time, not when you're eating. So
not when you're getting nourishment, truly.
Not when you're receiving nourishment, yin. You're either doing yang of work and typing and accomplishing, or you're yin, you're setting some time aside. So people kind of fixate on, oh, well, I'm going to eat all vegetables and organic and the Garth Brooks all juice diet. But, they don't remember the eating habits are a big part of this as well.
For sure.
So, we could spend a whole podcast or more on each one of these things, but just kind of briefly going over these things. Therapies are things that you kind of have done to you or with you. So you don't really massage, or you can massage yourself, I suppose. And I suppose I could acupuncture myself, but, talk therapy, massage therapy, reflexology, sound therapy. Hopefully you'll make it to our next sound bath, Julie. This is something that, there's different levels of passiveness, like in sound therapy, you don't need to do a damn thing. And sometimes that's really good for that person that's eating on the go, on the conference call, driving to this appointment, that appointment, and volunteering to have a PSA and a volunteer firefighter in her community. Sometimes they just need to stop doing the yang and just sit there and receive some sound and let the sound kind of take you to a different land. So, and sometimes the therapy is like somatics, where it's kind of like partial participation, or like Thai massage, where it's kind of like, it's not entirely passive, but it's kind of passive. So, there's a broad spectrum of therapies that are better for some people than others, and someone can help guide you towards some of these things.
And that was
botanicals.
Hold on just 1 second. On the therapies, that was a big part of my strategy. For example, I had a 10-person healthcare team, and on that team, I had a chiropractor, a massage therapist, a reflexologist, a therapist, an acupuncturist. I tried yoga. I tried Reiki, all of these things to impact different things. So for example, to really support me, so I wouldn't have neuropathy, I saw an acupuncturist before I started chemo. Or so that I could have lymphatic draining, I saw a massage therapist. So it's important, as you start to think about these therapies, to begin to think about what is the outcome you're trying to achieve, and align the team and the approach to that outcome. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you. Let's go to botanicals.
Yeah, like you said, be strategic about it. So there's a million different therapies that you could do. Yeah. Underwater basket weaving is probably something that's very relaxing for some people, but is it going to help your neuropathy? Maybe not.
Yeah.
So botanicals, there's a whole realm of that, and botanicals also can kind of creep into diet a little bit, because, oregano and thyme, they're botanical, but there's something that you can put on your pizza and, or your salad or whatever. So there's kind of a spectrum, and there's also like Artemisia, wormwood, or a chorus or aconite, which is like not something you would ever want to put on any food. It is extremely strong, very potent and potentially caustic and even poisonous. And that is nowhere near the realm of gentle food-like substance, but sometimes called for in the realm of therapeutic medicine in small doses. So, work with an actual herbalist that knows what they're doing and knows dosages and can tune the botanical regimen and formulas, not just single agents, but formulas, and help them include those into, pills, capsules, tablets, nebulizers, topicals, on your pizza, teas, decoctions, infusions. There's a million different ways to get botanicals into and onto people.
Even an enema.
Even an enema. That's right. I did a whole class called butt medicine, going beyond and below our normal oral delivery mechanisms as herbalists. So they made me change the name of that at the American Herbalist Guild to rectal administration of rectal administration of herbal medicine, because they didn't like my original title, but I still kind of like butt medicine.
I like butt medicine too. All right.
Yeah.
And then nutraceuticals. This was something that was totally new to me. I didn't really understand what this was and how it was different from pharmaceuticals. So can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So all along that spectrum between, food and botanicals and drugs, kind of between pharmaceuticals and botanicals, often in terms of strength and, how laser focused they are, as opposed to eating broccoli sprouts is a food, but it's kind of also botanical, but it's a shotgun approach because it's got the isocyanates and it's got the DIM and the sulforaphane. It's kind of got a plethora of different chemical agents, whereas nutraceuticals typically is one chemical agent. Say vitamin C is one thing. Eating parsley is a bunch of things, including vitamin C. Nutraceuticals is like L.Ac, alpha lipoic acid, things that are not really a plant. They may be contained in plants. Quercetin is in probably half of Chinese herbs, but it's hard to get up to 2 grams of therapeutic level of quercetin with eating onions. You could do that, but you would definitely smell like onion or garlic. So
Side effects of that too.
There's side effects to that too. Nutraceuticals are that type of thing, and they can be dialed in specifically, like you said, to accomplish certain things before, during, or after chemo. And here is one scenario where you do, with some of these nutraceuticals, need to be careful doing them precisely the same day of chemo. Most of them are pretty kosher to do the day of, but for example, iron, you don't want to do the day of chemo. Pharmaceuticals, I think we know what pharmaceuticals are.
Yeah.
And they sometimes need to be dialed in, but I would first, especially for like a stage 1 or 2 cancer, I see very many cases where you don't need to dial in the pharmaceuticals. Sometimes you do, like in advanced cancers, they are, you don't start with pharmaceuticals, you start with all these other nourishing, gentle, strengthening things, because pharmaceuticals always 100% of the time, even something as mild as like metformin, which is pretty mild as far as drugs go, and it is somewhat pleiotropic in that it covers more than one base. It still has side effects. Like it's going to slowly but surely deplete your B vitamins and other minerals. So they all have side effects, and you'd rather do the things that are going to give you more effects and less side effects. But if you're going to do the pharmaceuticals, then you definitely need, it's not a question. It's like, well, you needed them before, but now you really need these other toolboxes in place to protect you from the side effects of the pharmaceuticals. So taking the B12 or the B6 or the magnesium supplement, if you're on metformin or something stronger like adriamycin or Cytoxan.
For sure. So, and I think it's important to note here as well, as I was searching for this, most people tend to get cancer and then abdicate control to one single doctor at a time. So it could be your surgeon and then your oncologist, et cetera. But I, of course, with my industrial psychologist hat on, did some research and looked into what is the medical school curriculum that you can actually hold any one doctor accountable for knowing. And when I began to look at that curriculum, I understood that literally the only one of these that a physician is an expert in is number 6, pharmaceuticals. So it is critical, no matter what you decide to do as you build your holistic health strategy, that you understand who you can go to be an expert in what. So pharmaceuticals, we typically would say oncologist or any conventional or traditional or Western style doctor would probably be an expert in pharmaceuticals. Now, there are certain nutritionists or others that would certainly have expertise in diet and eating habits, but I frankly went to Oscar to help me with botanicals, nutraceuticals, diet, and lifestyle. And he was able to really help me moderate against those things. And then, as I mentioned before, I built out an entire strategy where I had a 10-person team with the reflexologist and chiropractors and massage therapist. But Oscar, is there any professional that you would say I named that would be really helpful to begin to think about as you're considering these 6 core toolboxes in your initial stages?
Like you said, I think it takes a village and it takes a team, especially in an advanced cancer setting where it's not like optional to dial in the botanicals or nutraceuticals or pharmaceuticals. Like those are a necessary part. So it's going to take more than one person to help manage all of these things. And like a pelvic therapist, right? Like I'm not going to do that. I know very little about that, but I know the benefit that my patient, they need less acupuncture and herbs when they have someone like manually go, on their abdomen and kind of get those tendons and ligaments and pelvic floor in place. Then they don't need to take all my herbs to not have to pee 6 times a night, right? So herbalists generally, I mean, maybe I'm biased because I'm an herbalist, but we're trained in at least the diet, eating habits. We have generally a pretty good understanding of other ancillary modalities like reflexology or massage therapy. I mean, I'd say probably half of herbalists are also one of these other things, acupuncturists or massage therapists or reflexologists or aromatherapists. So, herbalists tend to wear more than one hat.
Absolutely.
But to answer your question, I mean, rarely do you find someone that is expert in more than 3 things. Donnie Yance, my teacher, could run circles around the pharmacokinetics of most pharmaceuticals around, he can run around pharmacists or doctors because they just don't, they deploy these things as tools, but they don't really understand the latest research around, is this drug better than this drug in the study that just got published last week, because that memo doesn't get to them because they're understandably seeing like 40 patients a day. So they're not going to these conferences, ASCO conferences every year to say, hey, we did the trial on these 4 approved FDA drugs and, they all work, but we now realize that this one and this one, drug number 1 and 3 combined work a little bit better than drug number 2 and 4, or definitely a lot better than drug number 1 alone. And a lot of this data is published and filters down to standard of care years later. I mean, I routinely still see docs prescribing meds that are kind of old hat, like old, and or still, prescribing tamoxifen, whereas in fact, aromatase inhibitors have kind of shown that they're better. So kind of hats off to, I guess, to Donnie Yance that has a pretty solid handle on most of these things. But reality, you're going to probably the cancer patient are probably going to have to find at least 2 or 3 different people to help guide these choices. Or if you're the DIY kind of person, theoretically, you can take a deep dive into all of these things and look into it for yourself. But I've changed my oil and my, on my car, and I've replaced my alternator many, many times. And at this point, I think I would just rather pay someone that's done it a million times to do it, because it would take me far longer to research this stuff and get my hands dirty than what these guys could do in a blink of an eye.
And frankly, we know the only non-renewable real resource is energy. And you don't want to conserve your energy to use it where you really need it, which is in diet, rest, exercise, etc. So I totally believe that you should hire the professional that has the spike in the area that you really want to discover the expertise in. So, well, this has been a quick introduction to the 6 toolboxes. We'll, of course, do quite a bit more in these toolboxes, but this is the foundation of how to build a holistic health strategy, and not only to treat the cancer, but to heal the host and heal yourself. We hope that you learned something and can help to employ this in your holistic cancer strategy, and that what you've learned here today will help you make cancer suck less. Thank you so much for joining us. Julie Stevens and Oscar Sierra signing off.